we'll work on that, put them out, probably start presentations to the brokers in December. And we're probably looking at starting at the beginning of next year, where we retain the same people and new people, whatever. But to have someone on board before February, because at that time they need to start to go out to the, shop the plans.
Okay.
And they won't get final quotes to 60 days before the beginning of the year, so they need to get everything together for that. Okay. Other discussions? Concerns?
I've got nothing else for this evening. Rita? Dave?
I do.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
I sent an email out that's not on the agenda at all.
No.
Were you able to get a list of all the?
Still working on that. I don't have a.
It's not an automatic database.
Report.
It's not an automatic report created.
Not with what you need, job descriptions and names.
Okay. So what I found out was that the wellness committee,
Right.
I'll be more specific, that they brought up that they wanted to hire a part-timer to wipe down the tables for a couple hours. Are you familiar with it? Were you on the wellness committee? Andy, did you show up with that one at all?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Is this more, from what I read from your emails, I'm not sure how it relates back to finance. So
Oh,
it's
simple.
more of Personnel?
No, it's finance, because basically, well, when I looked at, I'll tie it together.
Well, you can tie anything together.
Okay, good.
Anything relates back to finance.
Well, let me tie it
Spend
together.
money on
Right,
things, so-
spending money.
So go ahead, but it's.
So, over the last month since I've been a director of December, I met with the district, and copies of every invoice and backup was recorded. We reviewed how the money's spent and where the money's spent. And from a financial standpoint, since we are, in my term, our P&L is underwater, since we're spending more money than we're currently generating every year. And we have a projected financial loss of, more than hundreds of thousands of dollars, closer to $1 million something, that the finance committee, this responsibility is to have a plan to get the budget at least zero, right? You gotta find a way where you're gonna cut back. So after reviewing all of the invoices and the bills, the lights, the phone bills, and all those things, we found a couple things that were beneficial that we've saved minor dollars on, and we found some that might be significant once the contract comes up, and how we can save on the contract for sick days and things other than that need to be negotiated. But we also noticed that there's a significant lack of attrition that occurred with the elementary center, and a significant increase in the number of employees that we have on a regular basis. So if we're
Do you have
continuing...
numbers for that you're referencing?
Right, so that's what the finance committee should be checking this. So the question I asked Brian was to give us a list of current number of employees, their job descriptions and their job titles, right? And then the next thing we'd look at is, well, let's look at that from last year, the year before, and 5 years ago. And then look at that as a function of enrollment, because those two tie together. Finance committee, right? You're steering the finances of this government. So it doesn't appear to me that it's ever been done, at least in the 8 months that I've been here. And when I asked some of the older board members if they ever did this, they made the statement that, nah, it's just workfare, which is assigned employees to jobs that are needed. It's an answer, but the board didn't necessarily review and do their duty to review whether or not that was the answer for the problem. For instance, I'll give you a perfect example. At the Wellness Committee, Tim Tack brought up the fact that somebody in the administration that's on this committee or discussion said that the tables at the elementary center, right, are dirty after breakfast and need to be wiped down prior to lunch, which makes sense. Cleanliness is next to godliness. Therefore, they wanted to create a position to hire a part-time person to come in for a couple hours to wipe the tables down. Now, that's a solution to a problem. However, it's the board's responsibility, as Rita mentioned, about creating positions. And then after it's been created, then it's the administration's responsibility to give us recommendations as to who to hire to fill that position the best. And it's our job to oversee that. So I'm wondering if this is a situation where the administration is using an additional employee that we did not suggest. They didn't come to us with a problem, and then we had a way to solve it. They're coming up to you with a answer to a problem, and that answer is a person. And then in the past, our board has been known to abdicate that responsibility right to the administration, rubber stamp what they do, and we're trying to avoid that. Or I'm trying to help our board avoid
I
that.
don't find that to be the case in past board practice, but
Okay,
you're
we're getting
in
better.
your opinion.
Yeah, in my opinion, and we're getting better at it, and I hope that I'm bringing awareness to it so that maybe we can get better at it.
I think the awareness has been there.
Okay, that's fine. But the reality is the wellness committee was going to recommend to the board to hire somebody to solve a problem. Whereas our board should be presented with the problem, and then we discuss different solutions, and you put it to the personnel committee, you put it to the finance committee, you put it to the wellness committee, you put it to the current people that are out there to say, how else could we solve this problem? And instead of hiring...
The tables are still dirty though.
In the meantime, unless you look at it from a different perspective. Do you hire a new employee, which has a cost to it? Or do you ask an employee to come in an hour early? Or do you have the ones that fed breakfast clean up before they leave? Right? Or do you, there's a lot of ways to assign those responsibilities, because the cleanliness has to be taken care of. Cleanliness is next to godliness. The question is, how do you resolve that problem? To me, that's more of a board situation than adding another person in. So what I'd like to do is find out twofold. One is where that attitude that hiring a person to solve problems originated. And then secondly, we should back check what took place in the past to make sure we didn't hire a whole bunch of people to solve problems that we could have solved another way. Because maybe they weren't aware of it and the rubber stamp did occur. And that's why I'd like to see the finance committee recognize that since payroll is the number one expense of this district, if I'm not mistaken, next to debt. I think that's almost...
Payroll and benefits are about 70% of the total.
Right, and then how much of it's debt?
7, 8.
Right, and then the rest of it is overhead and expenses, 20-some%.
Operational costs.
Yeah, and those, some of those are fixed. Very, very few of them are variable costs.
Right.
So the only variable cost that you have some input and control over would be that 70% number, which is payroll. And if you decide to review how many employees you have to solve different problems, maybe you can look at consolidating some of the responsibilities within the employees you have to save the district money.
No doubt.
Now, before...
And that's our responsibility.
So after you learned of this problem, did you go to the superintendent and ask?
Not
him
yet.
to
You gotta,
solve
first of all, you have to go collect the data before you can make an opinion. So right now, we're in the data collection
it?
phase.
So you're finding out if we have 30 tables. That's your collection.
No. The collection of data.
So this for instance that you brought to us,
Go ahead.
we have 30 tables down in the cafeteria between breakfast and lunch.
Yes, sir.
So has anyone addressed that problem?
The wellness.
Have we, because we didn't hire anyone, so has the problem been addressed, or do we still have 30 tables?
I've offered for some people to come in early to clean the tables. Now, it's not just the dirty tables.
I'm looking past it, so let's
Yeah.
stop with the dairy table has not nothing to do with this, other than the fact
Let me
that it
go back
shows
to-
an ill.
Go back to the real problem.
Right.
Last year, we took on pre-K. We served them breakfast. Okay, so someone has to go up, and they serve them in their rooms, so someone has to go up and bring all that stuff back. That's what this person will be doing. We also got 2 grants last year and another grant this year for breakfast kiosks. And now we're also serving breakfast at the entrance where the kids come in. And our participation in breakfast is over 300 kids in the morning, which we used to only do maybe 100 from all the different schools. So we actually have the servings going up. So those areas where the kids get the kiosk or the grab and go breakfast, that stuff has to be cleaned up and brought back down. Besides the kids going down for the hot meal and eating down in the cafeteria.
Plus, kids should clean up a little bit after themselves, but I fully respect that at that age, it takes time, and we better help. You gotta help.
You should see the floors.
Right, but what I'm talking about is not, we're not talking about the dirty table issue here.
Right.
I'm talking about the bigger picture view, that are you solving problems with people, or are you solving problems with the human resource management system, which we are, as a district, weak in, and I'd like to review the human resource management side as a district as a whole for your finances. That's 70% of your budget, at which point you're gonna review that process.
Yeah.
And I don't think we have the data to do that yet. So I think the first part of the data is the report that I requested, which is a list of all the employees, what they do, and kind of how long they've been here.
Right.
You know, and if we know what they do, just like if you have a large corporation, I believe you work at a pretty large, if you kind of apply for your job again, you will see where there's opportunity for either consolidation, there's opportunity for overlap that might be occurring, there's redistribution of those people and resources to make sure you're getting the most contact time with students, which is where the value of that individual is. So we're looking at a human resource program that has not been in this district in the past to be implemented to make sure that we're using that 70% of those funds for the benefit of the kids and not just another person, another job, because that solves this problem very quickly and easily. I mean, it's really easy to say, I'm gonna hire another guy. You know, if I need someone to hold the door open because we don't have a doorstop and they wanna hire a person to do that, to me that's a little bit different than looking at the maintenance side of, do we put in a doorstop, or do you put in a person to watch the door? And what I'm seeing is that if you're gonna hire new people to clean a table, that was a red flag to me to say, we might not be looking at this